an Australian group, traditionally active in the very basic translation business, nothing very fancy, nothing very sexy. But with all the technology that we are facing right now, an extremely challenging business for the moment. I'm quite a number of years active in this industry, and 30 years ago, IBM launched an RFP to help their training department in avoiding to retranslate very similar courses. That was the first technology that came into a very traditional human translation business, allowing to reuse formerly done translations and push the result of the previous translation to a translator for validation. And that is called translation memory. That was the only technology that we saw in our industry for 30 years. Machine translation, with all the different steps in the linguistic aspect of that, was the second big evolution in our industry, starting almost 15 years ago with a company called, maybe you know, Sistran, who sold their machine translation, rule-based and grammatically rule-based translation to the European Commission 15 years ago, lasted a very long time. And since the last 5 years, of course, we all know about statistic machine translation, and then statistical machine translation, and then neural machine translation. It all adds up to the performance of the output. And of course, now since 2 years, the Gen AI translation. You can imagine that with a very traditional university 5-year master student who finishes a translation path, they are confronted to this huge technological evolution, and they are not prepared for that, not at all. So we as a translation company, we need to massage almost the attitude of the students and their teachers on one end, especially the teachers, and on the other hand, our customers, because they don't have a clue of what this translation is about. I've made a couple of slides just to introduce you. I'm not going to give a demo of the Drupal connector that you can find in our booth, because there are as many connector possibilities and installations as there are flows, but we'll come back. So main topic for me is just to position the technology, in this case our Drupal connector, to the existing business and the changes and the challenges that companies has today to well manage their translation. And there are very few companies who are really aware of all the aspects of content. And today we see two very big types of content. You probably all know that, and the static one and the dynamic one. And they're all different workflows on how to create that. If you have a company who makes whatever product, you have content linked to the product, to the packaging, to the marketing communication, the sales aspect, the legal aspect, the administration aspect. And what we see in customers, they're all different flows. People inside the company don't speak to each other. They use different words to name the same things. And then we are coming on the output side on the translation. We translate into 10 languages, and people say, no, this is not what we call it like this. So on the content creation side, there is a lot of uniformization necessary. On the translation side, it's much easier, because with the technology that I just explained in the beginning, the translation memory, we store every sentence that we have done for this customer. Now, what is happening now is more and more is that inside the company, marketing is not speaking to marketing communication. Even we see people who make brochures, and then the same content is almost reused to make websites. They all have this dozen steps, let's say, content creation, can be done in InDesign, directly on the web in XML, can be in Word, can be in video, can be in audio. These are all different tracks where you create content. Somebody needs to check that. Not speaking about the layout. We still receive in manuals a very nice graph with text in it in PDF. What happens in translation? You can't access that graph with the text. You need to go back to the customer, ask a specific file for that graph, a manual flow to the translator, having it done in 10 languages, giving it back. So the translation, editing, proofreading is the next step. The layout of the translation is also an issue because, for instance, French and Dutch are 50% longer than English. So if you have a very nice layout of a brochure, it comes back, the text won't fit. So you have to start playing with fonts or with margins. Or it's really a challenge. Then we have to package all those languages to give back to the customer, who then receives the text, put it somewhere. And then they say, but our French and Italian guy, they want to review the brochure before they send it out. Okay, so headquarters send PDF to their German or French distributor, and comes back and says, we don't say it like that. We use different words. They put a post-it note on a PDF, send it back. But they are engineers, they are not linguists, so there are mistakes in those changes. Comes back to us, to translator, who correctly puts the changes in there, send it back to the customer. And I can go on like this. So we see big companies, there is no structure, no plan, because it's only translation, right? Who cares about it? Huh? So the complexity goes further, because what I just explained is happening a dozen times in a company, depending on the content source. Somebody is responsible for the packaging or the label of pot mayonnaise. There is somebody from Van der Moortel, I think, here somewhere. Yeah. That project of making a label into 24 languages follows exactly the same path. If that company uses a catalog where they put all their variations of their mayonnaise in there, it's again a document that they make in InDesign. And also on a catalog making product, or on a web shop with another type of content structure. And all that needs to be translated, revised, edited, and put back somewhere on a system. So a very simple issue like translations, when you dig into that, it's very, very complex. And technology is helping us there to as I said, to reuse formally done translations. But the biggest challenge is that because of the nature of technology coming closer and closer to us, and Google Translate is popping up everywhere, but we're not going to use an outside translation company anymore. We just go to the website and we ask for free a translation, and it's okay. When we look today at the type of content that we are getting and the potential technology that can be used, at the bottom, you see different types of documents, very, very, very general. It's much more than that. It goes with quality. And what also goes with this line is the time, the lifetime of this kind of content. A contract, a marketing piece that stays 2-3 years in the company. A chatbot, an email, a press release that goes in and out quick, and next one. So the need to make something decent or correct is much more valid for the right side type of content than for the left. But the quality that is getting expected is also moving towards that direction also. Today, as we saw, we have the classical human translation, what we call the computer aided. Is a reuse of formally done translations. Machine translation, it says, okay, we have many customers. We have to know what a glossary is. A glossary is a specific company list of terms, a couple of thousand terms, if the company is well organized. By the way, an exception still today, companies who have a glossary, Bible of terminology. It's so normal from a linguistic point of view, but it's such a hassle to have that in a company. But when you have that list and you add that list to a machine translation engine, quality immediately moves up to a very great extent. If you need pure machine translation, now it's called more and more neural machine translation. It's more intelligent. We see that little by little over the last 4 or 5 years, we see a fusion emerge over those two technologies, and the future, of course, is this. And this in time will become further here, and this will go more into this direction. So the overlap of the two technologies is, for the bigger, more experienced translation groups today, a fact. A fact. That's happening. Because price is coming there. When I started my career, it was a price per line. Now, since 20 years, it's a price per word. Average price per word today, 18, 20 cents per word. If you have CAT tools, computer-aided translation tools, and you reuse like 50% of your text with formally done translations, your average price per word goes down to 10. Everybody likes that. Plus, you have consistency, terminology, everybody's happy. Add to that an extra layer of machine translation, that half of the content which is new is getting suggested to a translation using the output of the machine translation. There's still only 1/4 of that total volume that needs to be translated, bringing it down to 5 cents per word. But the translator is still working at home with his normal rate. So the big clash that we have today is finding translators who are ready to move from a price per word to a price per hour, where at the end of the day, they earn the same thing, even more. They produce, they don't like the word, but they produce more output, combining machine translation and computer-aided tools. Customers don't care about all that. They have a text, they want it back for tomorrow on a decent quality, at a certain quality, a decent quality, for a certain price. But in the back office of a translation company, this is what they are faced with. Now, if we continue the technology path, we see that, as I told you, there is this move towards neural machine translation. And of course, now the machine translation is moving towards generative AI, where today customers ask us that the interference with the engine is almost a natural flow, integrated with Slack, integrated with Teams. From within Slack, from within Teams, on the prompt, you launch a translation. And going back to the same engine sitting behind, where the dictionaries are stored and all the style guides are. So the effort that companies are making now to request translations is going down every year. A couple of years ago, it was normal that you send out an email with a text in attachment and you get it back. 10 languages, 10 attachments, everybody's happy. Then the portals came, the upload and download of file in the portal. Now, even the upload and download of files now is done. It's completely integrated now with the processes of company. So the next step, of course, is that with the connectors and with the Drupal and audience, of course, it's normal that, the basic architecture is Drupal, and it's enough to add a connector to automate this flow. But from a customer perspective, the steps that needs to be done to provide a good translation always stay the same. It's preparing the files, it's working on terminology, it's giving a style guide, it's preparing the document so that if illustrations are in there, that they are approachable and not in a PDF format, because this you can't handle. So there is on one end this technology impact from the translation company, and on the other hand, you have the facility of tools like Drupal or WordPress or all the big ones. That from a customer perspective, it's just a button. It's just a next step to getting a multilingual content back, and that's why the connectors of the connector, this specific one for Drupal, is independent from the content flow or the content source. So you can have a content flow on our customers who send us small 2-3 minutes how-to videos, how to change my inked cartridge in my copier. No more text, just a little video film. We need to extract the text, we need to translate, put it back, put a voice on it, and send the 10 language version back of the how-to video. These are all different elements and examples of content flows that within the Drupal connector have a specific setup. The next step for us is to come to the company, sit together with all the different stakeholders. And you can start, of course, with marketing, because in many cases they are the big consumers of product development, to decide what is their flow, what are their issues, and map then a certain flow on paper and introduce that. That's how it normally works. They decide, the customer decide what quality they want. Machine translation, thank you. Machine translation, to give an example, BMW is using 100% neural machine translation today to make the user manual, as they call it, yeah, which was in the past on paper, now it's on the screen. Yeah, there's no more human intervention. You have 5,500 terms in the glossary with 10% new things every year. There's no human intervention anymore since 3 years now. Because the combination of machine translation and the glossary and the specific terminology is made the quality so high that no human intervention. There's a budget from 3 million per year to 0. For a translation company, it was quite. Now, we are still a lot of content, because the content is shifting from manuals to more updates of product and features and other aspects of the car. But that's a very good example where there's a shift, because the client accepts that here and there might be a misinterpretation or a little mistake, but nobody reads a manual. You consult the manual when you have a problem with your car. Yeah. So imagine that for the majority of technical documentation, user documentation, training manual, installation manuals, it's very, very valid that this technology is used now. It's costed a lot of money. We are really going down on price because the quality level at the output side is accepted. This was 2-3 years ago unthinkable. Unthinkable. 2 more. Whatever source of content you have, what we call content silos, whether you have it on a content management system or admin system, or very challenging one, PIM, product information management or product data management, lots of data, catalog, software is also coming from there, text, features and benefits, picture, prices. It's all very, very suitable to have it translated via a machine translation. In many cases, the equivalent of machine translation, you know what it is? No translation. If you need to book a hotel in Greece and you don't speak Greek, you can use Google Translate and the communication can go back and forth. You are helped. An example where the alternative of machine translation is no translation. That's a trend also in the B2B. So PIMs and PDMs are now translated automatically. And in some cases, we have an example, for instance, Coolblue. When Coolblue launches a new set of products, recently 20 new vacuum cleaners. In 3-4 days, they can see which of the 20 vacuum cleaners are the best seller ones. Get a text, the translation is revised, the machine translation is revised by a human. That's done, pushed back, and then the system automatically uses that translation to translate the text and the content of the 15 other ones. Total price is not only more 20 cents per word, average is going to 4 cents per word. Everybody's happy. So, and whether you work with our friends here from Drupal or WordPress or Salesforce via Slack or whatever, that's for us the future. So it's too difficult, or it's not too difficult, but it's too broad to give here a demo of our connector. You can check and do that in our booth. And with your specific request, we can already pinpoint what type of flow we could put in place for your Drupal environment. But as I said, it's available on a marketplace, Ray Enterprise, and people like Siemens and Panasonic, they use that on a day-to-day basis. That's what I wanted to speak about. The very traditional, not so sexy topic of translation. But when you dig into this, you're confronted with a huge challenge for every company today. Questions? Comments? It sounds familiar or it sounds weird? Yeah. The red box also. Give that one too. Sorry. It works. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I work for a company right now that has 30 different languages.
Yeah.
And there's also like a big problem in who's responsible for the translation part of the exercise. And but this is not translated correctly, and it comes back a lot, very for German and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you have like tips for that. How
Yes.
you?
Well, the title of the presentation was the connector and the local validation, because in many cases, without us knowing the last bit of the flow, so we deliver the translated text back to the work giver, and then they send, as I said, a PDF to their local distributor to have it checked. Then it comes back, of course, with all those changes. Because first of all, they are not, in many cases, not linguists, they are salespeople or engineers, and they comment on what is written, because it's very subjective, not for a user manual, for a marketing brochure or for a web page. There is a validation tool step in the Drupal connector, where before sending it to the headquarter back, it goes to the local validator in Germany, in Spain. And when they do their changes, it comes back to us, because, as I call it, we are the gatekeeper of the message. Because what happens is, in many cases, the local office changed a little bit, but that's not any longer in coordination with what headquarters want, because they don't speak Portuguese or Greek. They just say, okay, I'm going to get this text back. I'm going to follow what my distributor does. But in the majority of the cases, it's not representing anymore the original source text. You, a headquarter, you don't know, but we can say, do you really want this to be changed in your Greek language? We translate to English. We don't decide. You will decide, but you will have the information that the translation was changed in an improper way. But with the glossary and with the styling guide, it's all kept in the memory. And that's why translation memory in my CAT tools, that's the the constant link. So
yeah. For now, I mostly I just Google Translate it or DeepL Translate it and then see if it's still the same in English, and then. But yeah, that would be
that's the solution. Is because there are not many alternatives for that. Yeah. What also happens is that the level of English is going down every year. Because more and more English is written by non-native speakers everywhere in Europe. So it's poor English. A lot of it is poor English. So when you translate that, it stays basic. It's correct, German, Italian, Spanish, or whatever, but it's not the same level as the real native English person. So we have customers where we rewrite the English because it needs to be done into 40 languages. So it pays off to spend a couple of hours editing the English before sending it out to their network. Very common practice.
Thank you.
Someone else?
Yeah.
Time is up?
Time's up. Yeah.
Okay.
Time for
Come and see us.
So now there's coffee and a group photo.